Hi everyone, my name is Emily and I'm a youth services librarian at the Rock Island Public Library, and today's Manga Monday title is Lost Lad London. And this book, it's only part of a series that's only 3 volumes long, which I enjoy because it's a mystery, and I'm definitely going to read the rest after reading this first one. In this first volume, you meet this young person, and his name is Al. You see him there. And he's going to college in London. So that's where he lives. He has an apartment with a friend. And at one point, a friend asks, "You and your family are close, aren't you?" And Al says, "About normal. We respect each other, but we don't really understand each other." And the friend is like, "You call that being close?" And Al says, "We don't really fight, so I wouldn't say we have a bad relationship. My family's like everything else. I don't expect anything from other people." And you know, he's already announced like he's going to be working over the holiday break. And one friend says, "Al was adopted, right? Maybe that's why he holds back from asking his parents." And then the other friend says, "No, I think that's just the way he is." And we see him later that night getting ready to take public transportation. Also in this first chapter, we meet Detective Ellis. Now, Detective Ellis, you see him here. He is a police officer. He works for Scotland Yard. You can kind of see from the cover, maybe better than inside pages, that he's recently had some injuries. Like you can see he's walking with a crutch and he's got like a neck brace on. And so in this first chapter, we learn that Al, he's coming home, he's taking the tube after work. And what ends up happening is this train that Al was on, somebody, like a tube employee, asks this other passenger, you know, "Hey, we're at the end of the line, you need to get off." And it's at this point the employee realizes the person he's talking to, he's not responding because he has died. He's been murdered. And so everyone's surprised because it turns out that this person who was murdered on the tube is the mayor of London. So Al and his roommate are talking because Al's roommate, Caleb, is like, "Hey, you were on that train that night. Like, that's pretty wild." Because, you know, why would somebody murder the mayor? Is this a political thing? Was this just a random thing? And Al says, "Yeah, I know, because if so, if it was just random, it could have been me who was murdered that night." So Caleb at this point, he talks about the fact that, okay, well, I'm going home for the Christmas holidays. I'll see you next year. And it's at this point, after Caleb has left, Al, he goes and gets into his jacket. And he's not worn this jacket since that night he was on the tube. And he's surprised to find when he gets in his jacket pocket, he finds a knife. A bloody knife, actually. Now, everybody who's watched the news in the past few days knows that the mayor of London was stabbed to death. And so it's at this, like literally minutes after the knife is discovered, that Detective Ellis knocks on Al's door. And I mean, the two of them, like Al is thinking, you're not sure what he's thinking in this moment, but he lets the detective in and the two of them talk. And basically Al explains, "Okay, well, no, I didn't notice the mayor. I didn't know he was on the same train. Nobody was like announcing, 'Hey, the mayor's on this train.' Like, no, I was just texting my roommate and then I got off the train." And Detective Ellis just says, "I see. Well, you're not the only person who matches the description given. You know, we know you were on the train, but we understand, like that doesn't mean you're a suspect or a witness. If you do happen to remember anything later," you know, he has Al get his card. He can't quite reach it. And he says, "Even if it's the tiniest detail, unexpected clues can turn up anywhere." And it's at this point Al says, "Mr. Ellis," and he shows him the knife, which he literally pulled out of the pocket, dropped on the floor, went to answer the door. And so Detective Ellis's thing at this point is like, well, okay, the size and shape are consistent with the one we're looking for, the murder weapon in this case. And from the looks of it, it's stained with blood. If this turns out to be the missing murder weapon, you will be in a very precarious situation." And Al's like, "You mean I'd be a suspect?" And Detective Ellis says, "Yes, you would." And Al says, "But that knife isn't mine. It's like I just told you. I didn't know what to do. It wasn't me." And it's at this point we learn a little bit more about Detective Ellis. We know that there is this case in his past that he regrets, where an innocent person, or at least a person who insisted they were innocent, was accused of a crime. And so Detective Ellis asks, reasonably, "Al, why did you decide to speak up and tell me about this knife?" And Al says, "I'm not sure. It just seemed like the right thing to do." And Detective Ellis admits, "Any decent police officer would bring this in and take you back to the station. But I don't want to do that. No doubt you'd be treated as the prime suspect, and that is quite difficult to overturn." And Al's like, "But false charges can't be made that easily, can they?" And Detective Ellis says, "The mayor of London has been killed. This is a special case. And you wouldn't know it from your name, but you're South Asian, right? What's more, the victim is white. Public opinion would be severely against you." So basically he explains, look, there's still time. What needs to happen is we're going to have to find the actual culprit in this situation. And for Al, he's like, "Well, wait a minute, why me?" And at first it just seems that, well, for Detective Ellis, he's gonna need some help. I mean, look at the state of me. Like, I've got this cast, I'm not walking super well. And when Al says, "Okay, but why?" I understand why you need my help, but why are you even extending this offer? And Detective Ellis says, "Because it seems like the right thing to do." And by the end of this first book, Al knows that, oh, okay, this person, there's something in their past that's making them think, I don't want this potentially innocent person to be accused of this murder. And so he learns a little bit more about this person. But at first he's thinking, okay, well, let's kind of look at the timeline. Because the first person who they start to think of who could have done this? Who could have planted the knife? Well, I mean, Caleb, the roommate. And so Detective Ellis's question by the start of chapter 3 here is, okay, well, can you prove that your roommate isn't the culprit? Like, do you have any way of proving this? And of course Al doesn't. And so he thinks back to, like, the kind of person Caleb is. Like, hey, this is a person who, if he drinks the rest of the milk in the fridge and it was my milk and not his, like, he'll go right out and buy more. Like, to me, that doesn't fit with somebody who's a murderer. But Detective Ellis's whole thing is like, yeah, but, I mean, murderers can do other things too. In fact, I mean, they're not usually just people who are mean and terrible. I mean, they're people. And so there's other sides to them. But as the book goes on, what Detective Ellis and Al, by working together, they realize Al is being targeted. This is not a random thing. And so the two of them, in trying to work together to solve this case, Detective Ellis knows, okay, I'm breaking police protocol. But his thing is, okay, but somebody's targeting this kid and I want to know why. And for Al, it's like, yeah, what is there in my past that I don't know about that would make someone want to frame me for murder? So if you like mysteries, it's a really good book. I love the art. Shima Shinya is the author, and they have a really unique style. I guess when I think of manga too, most of them are set in Japan. And in this case, it's like, no, this is taking place in London. And I mean, the settings are such that you're getting like shots of pubs and shots of the tube. And I mean, for Al, like, he's learning about his past, like before he was born. He's learning about, oh, I know my adopted family, but there's a lot I don't know. In fact, I don't know much of anything about my biological family. So in trying to connect with someone from that part of his life, that's another thing he has to deal with. And also in learning about this connection, this potential connection to the mayor. Okay, this is a good lead in the sense that, well, I mean, Detective Ellis confirms, yeah, you're being targeted. This isn't somebody who just wanted to frame a random person and get away with a crime. They're trying to go after you specifically. But in this first volume, you don't quite know why. Like, you meet the person, this figure who's kind of like haunting the edges of the narrative. Like, at one point they call in a tip to the police line, but then they immediately like drop their phone in the water. And you don't see their face, you just see this person like wearing a jacket and the hood is up, so you can't see them. You don't know who they are. So check this out if you're a mystery or thriller fan and also a manga fan. And thank you for watching. I will see you again soon.